Okay, so we really have to start with this. This giant, kind of profound irony of our time, right? Of the 21st century. Just think about it for a second. We are living right now in the most hyper-connected period in all of human history. I mean, everyone you've ever met, basically. Every bit of information, every opinion, it's all literally right here in your pocket.
Exactly. And yet, uh, study after study keeps showing the same thing. We are consistently reporting these really deep feelings of isolation, loneliness, even social anxiety. And that's the paradox, isn't it? That's what we're really diving into today. Why is it that the more online we seem to be, the more, well, the more alone we actually feel?
It's baffling. Why does having, say, 500 virtual friends mean we often can't find one person, just one person we feel we can actually share a real messy problem with? So our mission today is to, cut through all that noise to understand how this thing we're calling hyperconnection, this constant kind of shallow digital stuff, how it's actively stopping us from getting to genuine deep connection.
Yeah, it's time we really took apart how these devices, which honestly were meant to be bridges, social bridges, how they've somehow ironically turned into these emotional walls instead. And we'll be looking at some pretty deep psychological wisdom here, especially Eric Fromm's ideas about active love, to figure out how we can build real, authentic relationships in this digital age.
Okay, let's unpack that. Our research, the sources we've looked at, they suggest this whole paradox really boils down to a fight between two things: the sheer quantity of our social interactions versus the emotional quality of them.
Right. And the problem really starts with the illusion, you see. Technology gives us this constant feeling of being socially dense, like you're never really alone, because you're always doing something social, right? Messaging 5 different group chats, maybe looking at 20 stories, liking hundreds of posts online. It feels immersive, it's low cost, and it kind of simulates real connection.
But simulated is the key word there, isn't it? Those interactions, they're fundamentally, well, shallow. They're basically zero sum when it comes to emotional investment. You tap an emoji, type a quick comment, double tap a heart. It's all high volume, very low effort engagement.
hmm And critically, this plays right into the attention economy we've talked about before. The algorithms are literally designed, engineered to keep your attention fragmented, scattered. And if your mind is constantly being yanked towards the next notification, the next piece of content, the next shiny thing, it becomes psychologically impossible to do that deep, focused listening, which is, the absolute bedrock of forming a real, lasting bond with someone.
So wait, if the algorithms want us fragmented, how can we ever possibly find the focus we need for real connection? This feels like where Eric Fromm's ideas become super relevant again, doesn't it? This replacing active effort with just passive viewing.
Spot on. Active love, as Fromm laid out in The Art of Loving, it demands deliberate effort. It requires care, responsibility, and genuine knowledge of the other person. So if your friend's having a hard time, real active connection means, maybe going over there,
Yeah.
spending actual time, looking them in the eye, applying focused energy to listen.
But the digital way encourages the exact opposite, right? We sort of satisfy the idea of being responsible, but with the absolute minimum effort. Send an upset emoji, a quick kind of generic thinking of you message. You tick the social box, but you skip the actual emotional heavy lifting.
And that leads us straight into this idea of social scorekeeping. It's subtle, but the goal shifts. It's less about nurturing a human connection and more about racking up social points. We end up chasing that fleeting validation, 50 likes on a nice photo. Why? Because the return on investment feels high social status points for incredibly low emotional cost.
Wow. And the result is kind of brutal when you put it like that. Your social capital followers, likes it might soar, but your emotional capital, the real stuff, it just plummets. So when you actually need support, when a real crisis hits, those hundreds of online friends, they just vanish because there was no real investment there to begin with.
And adding another layer of complexity here is the false happiness display. You see it everywhere. Everyone online is curating this perfect life image, the perfect holiday, the perfect job, the perfect relationship. And because of that, nobody dares to share their actual struggles, their flaws, their anxieties.
Okay, but I have to push back slightly there because we do see people finding real support online, don't we? Like genuine communities. Think about groups for people with specific illnesses or professional networks or even shared hobbies. Isn't it too simple to just label all digital connection as superficial?
No, that's a really excellent point, and the nuance is absolutely key. Online communities that build around a shared struggle or a very specific common goal, they can be incredibly bonding because they often rely on vulnerability, right? And shared knowledge. That actually meets some of Fromm's criteria. But the general social media feed, That's different. It's designed primarily for performance, not vulnerability. And when that shiny facade of perfection is the main currency, well, hiding your flaws becomes the norm, and that eliminates the common ground. So if everyone looks happy and successful online and you feel, miserable or lost, this deep, isolating thought creeps in. Wow, am I the only one feeling this bad?
Mm.
That curated perfection makes you feel uniquely alone in your struggle, even when millions feel the same way.
That's a really powerful distinction, and it makes the shift to our next point even more critical. If problem one is the illusion of connection, problem two seems to be that we're actually losing the internal ability to connect deeply because we're forgetting how to just be alone.
Mhm. And this brings us right back to Fromm again. His insight here is profound. Someone who can't stand being alone, they can't truly love. Their relationships aren't about shared growth or fulfillment.
Mhm.
They become what he called a dependency refuge. They use the other person, or these days the phone, basically,
Mhm.
to fill an inner void, to distract themselves from, well, themselves.
And the phone is the perfect shield for that, isn't it? Instantaneous distraction. It protects us from having to confront our own inner world.
Yeah.
The anxiety, the restlessness, those big existential questions that bubble up when it's quiet. We never have to just sit still and listen to our own thoughts because there's always something external to grab our attention.
We lose the capacity for boredom. It sounds weird, maybe, but being able to tolerate boredom, that's actually the fuel, neurologically speaking, for creativity,
Mm.
for deep self-reflection. When we become digitally dependent, we effectively strip ourselves of that ability. We end up reliant on external things and totally disconnected from our own authentic inner self. We're just constantly searching outside for validation, for stimulus, instead of building that inner strength.
Okay, this is huge. And it brings up a really important biological question. Can scrolling through a screen ever give us the same deep satisfaction as, real world interaction chemically?
The biology is fascinating here. There's a stark chemical difference. Think about actual physical human contact act.
Hmm.
A hug, holding someone's hand, even just sustained eye contact. That kind of interaction releases oxytocin. That's the bonding hormone, the trust hormone. It's the biological mechanism nature designed specifically to reduce loneliness and solidify long-term connection.
Okay, and what about when we check our notifications? Or get a like? What chemical is that?
Screens primarily deliver fleeting hits of dopamine. You get that little spike of pleasure, of reward when a notification pops up. It's the chemical of anticipation, of seeking. But the screen, fundamentally, it cannot deliver oxytocin. It's just not the right stimulus.
So wait, are you saying that quick buzz from seeing, I don't know, a dozen likes on something you posted, that's chemically different from the quiet, warm feeling you get after an hour chatting over coffee with a close friend?
Precisely. One is like a quick sugar rush dopamine. It makes you want more quickly. It's addictive in that sense. The other is that slow burn, deep satisfaction of genuine emotional bonding. That's oxytocin. So we keep seeking more interaction online because biologically, our bodies are craving that deep foundational satisfaction that only oxytocin can provide. But the medium, the screen, it only gives us dopamine hits. The result, it's this constant kind of exhausting and ultimately unsatisfying hunger.
Wow, so we're basically addicted to hunting for something that the platform itself just can't deliver.
Exactly. And this perpetual focus on our own performance, our online selves, it encourages what you could call relational selfishness. Think about it. Everything online is curated for us. It's our feed, our notifications, our profile performance.
Which means our attention is constantly directed back towards the self, what we get out of it, how we look, how we're perceived.
And that intense self-focus, it destroys our capacity for genuine, active interest in other people. From Goldman's principles, remember. Respect and responsibility. They require actively shifting your focus away from yourself and towards the other person's needs, their reality. A mind that's constantly optimizing its own online image just isn't available, truly, to respond to another human being.
Okay, so this is a deep hole we've kind of dug for ourselves. And clearly, just ditching technology altogether isn't realistic or even desirable for most people. So how do we climb out? What are the practical, actionable steps we can take to beat this paradox?
Well, the core solution lies in consciously choosing active connection over just passive consumption. We have to fundamentally change our measuring stick, stop counting virtual friends, and start measuring the quality, the depth of our real bonds.
I really like this challenge that came out of the research. Forget the hundreds of online contacts for a moment. This week, choose just 3 people. 3. And aim for a deep, focused connection with them. That means a dedicated, uninterrupted conversation, ideally face-to-face. But if that's not possible, then a proper voice call or video call where you are fully present, no multitasking.
Yes. And when you do connect, implement this really simple but incredibly powerful rule of respect. Phones off the table. Better yet, out of sight entirely. We really need to internalize this. Giving someone your 100% undivided attention, that is the single greatest sign of respect and care you can offer in today's world. It sends a clear message. You, right here, matter more than whatever might be buzzing in my pocket.
And we also need to tackle that internal piece, right? The fear of being alone. We need to actively practice the art of being alone, as Fromm called it.
It's easy to say, oh, just be bored. But why is boredom so uncomfortable for so many of us now? The research suggests it's because we use the phone like a neurological painkiller, an anesthetic against that difficult but really necessary inner dialogue. Our internal world often holds unprocessed stuff. Anxieties, self-criticism, solitude forces us to actually face it.
So we need to build it in, like scheduling a meeting, but with yourself. Maybe plan a daily 15-minute screen-free introspection break. Literally just sit. Let yourself be bored. Let the thoughts come, whatever they are. Maybe start to confront those inner voices you've been using your phone to escape from. And maybe reframe being alone not as a punishment, but as like a prerequisite for real maturity.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about developing the ability to be sufficient for yourself, to actually be your own friend, to make peace with that backstage person, the one you try so hard to hide online. Because once you can genuinely stand alone comfortably, your relationships change. They stop being acts of dependency and start becoming choices made from a place of abundance.
So the final synthesis here feels pretty clear. Technology, it should be a bridge. It's amazing for bringing us closer when distance is a factor, but it should never become a wall that keeps us feeling isolated, even when we're physically right next to someone. And maybe the hardest part is finding the courage to put the phone down once we've used that bridge to connect.
And the core takeaway really is simple but profound. One single deep connection with one real person that's worth infinitely more than thousands of virtual likes or followers. Loneliness isn't some kind of disaster to be avoided at all costs. It's actually a fundamental part of being human, something to be acknowledged, understood, and then managed through deliberate, active, conscious effort.
Which leaves a really important question for you listening right now. If the cure for loneliness isn't actually more connection, but deeper connection, how will you find the courage this week to step away from the surface level scorekeeping? How will you choose genuine depth instead?